I'm pleased to say that I had a really good time with my reading last month. Let's wrap it up. What's up guys, welcome back to Unlimited Reads. My name is Chris and today I'll be wrapping up October, which was one of the most enjoyable months I've ever had with my reading. But before I get into the books I read, I wanted to start by just sharing with you a couple of channel highlights. The first of which was celebrating my first year on YouTube, which was a really good milestone. When I first started the channel, I thought, oh, this won't be a long-term thing, but it turns out it is going to be. I've learnt so much in the first 12 months being on booktube, learning how to create thumbnails, even down to the confidence of my voice, how I come across, and I'm no longer camera shy. And just the steep learning curve of how to learning how to brand the channel properly. I did start the channel with the name Hooked on Books with Chris, but I just don't think it had a nice ring to it. It was rushed. I didn't really think about a suitable title when I started the channel. I just wanted to start filming content and getting it out there. And it wasn't until I hit a bit of a slump and a confidence problem with the channel where it wasn't doing quite well, I thought I needed to reinvent things and finally lock in some branding that I'm comfortable with and that's consistent across the channel by way of the fonts on my thumbnails, the homepage banner, all that sort of stuff, and just keeping everything a bit more uniform. And I think it has done wonders and has rejuvenated the channel somewhat, and it's given me nothing but confidence to continue on. The second channel highlight was being invited to participate in yet another reading project created by the Bookish Bryants. If you haven't checked out their channel, please do. They have some really good content over there. But I've been lucky enough to participate in two previous reading projects. The first of which was February Fantasy Stories back in Feb, where each week had a certain theme that you had to read to, which was great. And in May there was also Horror Mayhem, which was really good. I enjoyed that one a lot, where you just get to sample things you wouldn't normally do. And the projects really suit me at this point in my life as a reader, because this year for me it's been all about exploring new things. I had very linear reading tastes. I would read thrillers and horrors mainly, and a little bit of fantasy, but since starting the channel and watching other people and seeing what they've been doing and what they've been reading, it's encouraged me to just step outside my comfort zone and try new things. Even reading classics and Western fiction more recently, and even manga, which I mentioned in my last video. It's just so exciting. Not so exciting for the wallet, because I'm finding myself wanting to buy more and more books than ever. So it does present its challenges, but I'm really excited on what's on offer out there that I was ignorant to in the past. So it's really exciting. But the main highlight that I wanted to touch upon is just the community I'm involved in, particularly when participating in New Worlds November, which is the latest project that the Bryants have created. And it's really good to be involved in a community kind of atmosphere with people in the UK and the US. It makes me feel like I belong. And the best part is using Voxer, which is an app. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it is a walkie-talkie app. So it beeps at you when people are talking or typing text, and we've just been conversing through that, and it's just been very active about the project and different subjects that come up, and it's just been great to connect with people, and that is what it's all about. So there you go for two really valid channel highlights that I wanted to share with you. Now, as for the books, the first book I completed was Lightning by Dean Koontz, which does happen to be my favourite Dean Koontz novel of all time, and I believe it was my third reread, or third or fourth, I'm not quite sure, but I remember reading it way back in 1988 when it was first published, and it was just, at the time, it was such an original premise and a really good subject, and it was, you know, all about time travel. And Dean Koontz himself admitted that the book was very difficult to write, and it's very likely that he will never touch time travel again in his fiction. And I don't blame him. It really cooks your noodle, some of the stuff that goes on with time travel and all the intricacies and what you have to keep in mind in following rules and things like that. But I had a really great time reading it again. It just reinforced in my mind how much of how good Dean Koontz creates characters, and Laura Shane, the main character from the book, has resonated with me for years. That's how good Dean Koontz is. He can have characters created in such a way that they leave a really, really good impression on you. It was great. If you haven't caught the review video, I did review it on the channel earlier in the month, and it's a spoiler-free review. So if you've never read Dean Koontz before, check out the review, and I guarantee if you pick up Lightning for the first time and read it, I guarantee that you will be wanting to read more of Dean Koontz's work. So I put my personal guarantee on that. The second book that I want to talk about is No Plan B, which is the latest Jack Reacher book from Lee and Andrew Child. It's their third collaboration together, the first being The Sentinel and the second being Better Off Dead. And it's been a difficult transition, I think, but I was pleased to find that No Plan B was the best of the three collaborations. I really enjoyed it. I read it in 2 days. The previous books took me longer because they weren't quite up to the standard that myself and other Jack Reacher fans were used to. So it was really, really good. I had a good time with it. I did review that on the channel as well. Again, spoiler free, so I don't do spoilers on the channel. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. But I am going to be doing a segment on why you should read Jack Reacher in the near future. Probably won't get time in November to do it because it's so jam-packed with stuff going on, but in between reading Stephen King's It in December, which I'm so looking forward to getting back into that book for the 4th time, it means in between I might be able to put out various bits of content there, and I might just work on that segment in between reading it. But yeah, I was surprised at how good the book actually was, and as a Jack Reacher fan, when a new book comes out with a collaboration between Lee and Andrew, you get a little bit nervous. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be an improvement? And I'm pleased to say it ticked all the boxes there. And as I mentioned in the review video for No Plan B, I've got confidence that Andrew Child, once he takes over the reins after the last collaboration that comes out next year, I think he'll do a good job for the series moving forward. So that was a really, really good read. The third book I want to touch upon was a real highlight for me, and that was Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I did a reading blog video on this one. If you haven't checked that out, please do. It goes into a bit of detail about my thoughts and impressions as I was reading the book at various intervals, and I absolutely loved it. It blew me away. It was the perfect introduction to the Western genre for me, and it's inspired me to want to read more Western fiction in the future. And I've already got my eyes set on a Louis L'Amour title, a very famous title called Hondo, which I'm hoping to squeeze in between now and the end of the year. But all the characters in the book were great, although there was a character called Lippy who didn't really need to be in the book, but it had everything. It had tragedy, action, hangings, shootouts, adventure, disaster, surprising character deaths that I didn't see coming, and just revelations and secrets and scandal, and just fantastic. It's one of the best books I've ever read, and I just can't wait to read more of it. But it was just fantastic. And the fourth book I read was Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service. This was my first manga title. If you would have asked me 12 months ago if I would ever read manga, I would have again laughed in your face and said no. But I've sort of wanted to try it recently, and the thing that I couldn't get my head around was this whole reading right to left thing. But I thought, I want to give it a crack. I've got to train my brain to do something a bit differently, and I did it. This was the first omnibus edition, which contains 3 volumes, which is split into about a half a dozen chapters each, and absolutely ripped through it in a few days because most of it's pictures, right? But it didn't take long for me to get used to reading from right to left. Now, the story involves 5 young graduates from a local Buddhist college who come together to form this group, and they all have their own talents and abilities when it comes to dealing with corpses. Now the characters, I've written down their names to refer to because they're hard to remember, but the main character is Kuro Kuratsu. He is a young boy who can converse with the dead. What I mean by that is if he comes across a corpse, he lays his palm on the forehead or anywhere on the body, and the corpse's soul speaks to him, and they have dying wishes or things like that, where he might find a corpse and the corpse will say, please bury me next to my wife, or this guy stole money from me, please get it back. And yeah, so he's got a very, very special talent to grant the wishes of the dead. The next character is Ao Sasaki. She is the brains behind the company. She handles the assignments and the finance and the logistics and research, all that sort of thing. So she's sort of the boss. Then we have Makoto Numata. He's a funny character. He's he's got a ponytail, wears glasses, and he's the dowser of the group. So he has this instrument that he swings back and forth, which allows him to locate the corpses that demand their attention. And we have Keiko Makino. She's an embalmer. She's trained in the US and has come back to Tokyo to provide her talents with embalming and preserving bodies. We also have Yuji Yata. He's a funny character. He's a timid little guy that doesn't say much, but he's more of a hired hand or a helper. And the funny, quirky thing with him is he wears a sock puppet, and the sock puppet apparently is an alien that he channels through the sock puppet. Which is a little bit ridiculous, but you know what, all the characters, they integrate very well. Some parts are very funny with their one-liner exchanges, and we find that people don't always die of natural causes. Sometimes they have issues that led to their death, and it's up to the corpse delivery service to solve those kinds of mysteries. And during those missions or assignments, they come across unsavory types and discover conspiracies and things like that in relation to organ donation, legal organ trafficking, all that sort of thing. So it was a really, really fascinating premise. I thought the artwork was really, really great all the way through. And yeah, when I thought I'm worried about reading right to left, I had nothing to worry about. It took me no time at all to get into the groove and just mow through it. So I've already ordered the second omnibus. It's on its way from the UK, but last time I checked, I think it's in Germany right now. It's going to take a good week or so to get into my hot little mitts, but once I get it, once I unwrap the thing, I'll be reading it, because they are a very, very quick read, and I'll squeeze it in somehow. And then once I finish the Corpse Delivery Service series, I believe there are 5 Omni editions all up, I'm probably going to move on to Death Note. Now, I haven't decided yet whether I'll be buying the individual black editions or following Ollie over at Criminolly's lead, where he recently purchased the big bind-up version, which I forget how many pages it was, but it's about that thick, and all the volumes are included in that weighty tome. So I may go that way. It's really cost effective to do it that way. I think it costs $40 for the binder, and I think every individual book is around $12 to $14. So it just makes sense to me to get it all in one volume, and then I can binge it without reading one volume and waiting for the next one to arrive. So I thought I'll just go all in, shell out the $40 and just have a great time. And then after that, I'll look at other series as well, maybe Demon Slayer, or with a bit of science fiction flavour, I might even look at Akira. Don't know if I'll do One Piece. Don't know if I want to read 220 manga volumes. I think it's insanely epic, One Piece. I've heard it's very good, and I've also heard they're making a movie adaptation for it, which the manga fans will be rabid about, I bet. But certainly going to be a bit more manga in my future. So that now brings us to my book of the month, and there can only be one clear winner here, even though I read only 4 books. The winner, of course, as you've probably guessed, is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. It ticks all the boxes. I absolutely loved it. enjoyed it that much that you know, it's inspired me to read more Western fiction, but it just blew me away, and that to me qualifies as a very, very valid choice for my book of the month. So yeah, it was very easy to pick the book of the month for October. So there you go. Now, as for my November reading plans, I did do a video on that, but just to recap really quickly, I'll read off the titles that I'm going to be reading, and there are 8 of them. So I'm going to be reading Skullduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy, Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut, which I've already started, being it's the 1st of November here in Australia, and New World's November has officially started. I'm going to be reading The Godfather by Mario Puzo, Across a Billion Years by Robert Silverberg, The End House by Michael Robertson Jr., The Troop by Nick Cutter, and I, Robot by Isaac Asimov, and The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury. Now, just on the subject of The End House by Michael Robertson Jr., I've got a fairly crazy idea in my head. I've recently just flicked a message to Michael Robertson Jr. He's a really good horror writer who has really cleaned up on Amazon Digital, and his latest book looks really, really good. I told him so, and said I will review it for him, and he was very accessible. He came back to me in a message fairly quickly. I'm going to be cheeky and see if it's possible for him to come on the channel. Which will be my first guest. Now, it's a stab in the dark. I don't know how I'll go, but I'm going to approach him. I don't have to go through an agent or anything like that, or a publicist. I might just reach out and see what he thinks, and then if he agrees to come on to chat about his books, it'll be a really monumental thing for the channel just to have my first guest to speak about his books. So that's very, very up in the air, but I'll keep you posted along the way. So there you go, guys. That is my wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, please offer up any comments below. I'll always respond to those. I'm always up for a chat, and yeah, let me know what your favourite books were for October. I'd love to hear that. And if you've read anything I have in October, let's compare notes. Have you read Lonesome Dove before? What do you think of it? Yeah, so there you go. But until next time, guys, I'll see you later.